I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here we are. My name is Jake, and I've been married to Sarah for 5 years. On the surface, we looked like the perfect couple. We had a charming little house, a dog named Max, and lots of shared interests. We were the couple you'd see at gatherings, laughing together, sharing stories, and generally being that couple everyone envied. But deep down, trouble was brewing, and I was too blind to see it. At first, it was subtle. Sarah started coming home later from work, claiming she was caught up in projects. She said they had deadlines to meet, and I believed her. I'd wait up for her with dinner on the stove, thinking about how lucky I was to have a dedicated wife. But the late nights turned into weekends where she'd go out with friends. I tried not to think too much about it. After all, people have lives outside of marriage, right? But the nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach kept growing. Then there were the little things. She started changing her appearance. New clothes, new hairstyles. One weekend she came home from shopping with a new dress that seemed out of place for our regular evenings together. I asked her about it, half jokingly, "What's the occasion?" She just shrugged it off, saying it was on sale and she couldn't resist. I remember thinking, why would she need a nice dress for a grocery run? But I brushed it aside, convincing myself I was just being paranoid. The tipping point came one evening when Sarah forgot her phone on the kitchen counter. I saw it lighting up with notifications, and my heart raced. I knew I shouldn't look, but curiosity got the better of me. As I picked up her phone, I saw a text from a guy named Mark. I didn't recognize the name, but the message was clear. "Can't wait to see you this weekend, just you and me." My heart dropped into my stomach. I didn't need to see any more. I put the phone down and sat there, feeling like the world was spinning around me. That night I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, replaying that text over and over in my head. Was she cheating on me? I had so many questions, but I needed proof, so I decided to do some digging. I waited for her to come home the next day and confronted her. I wanted to keep my composure, but it was hard. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and sorrow washing over me like a tidal wave. "Sarah, who's Mark?" I asked, trying to sound casual but knowing my voice was shaking. She looked at me, her eyes wide with disbelief, and for a moment I thought she might come clean. Instead, she laughed, that bitchy laugh that made me feel smaller. "Jake, that's just a coworker. You know how they are, always teasing each other. You're being ridiculous." I pressed further, unable to hide the hurt in my voice. But the text, it didn't sound friendly, it sounded personal. Her expression changed. I could see her calculating her next move, thinking about how to spin the truth. "Okay, maybe I flirted a little, but it doesn't mean anything. You're overreacting. You know how I get when I'm stressed." "It's just harmless fun," she said, brushing it off as if it was no big deal. But it was a big deal to me. My gut told me there was more, but she was so good at deflecting. I felt like I was losing my mind, juggling my feelings of love and betrayal. After our confrontation, I was left feeling hollow. I thought I knew my wife, but I was starting to realize I barely knew her at all. The emotional impact of her words hit me hard. I felt angry, but there was also sadness lurking beneath the surface. I loved Sarah, but could I trust her anymore? The realization that I might be living a lie was suffocating. It wasn't just about the betrayal, it was about the years I'd invested in this relationship. I started replaying memories, moments that once felt special now tainted with doubt. The necklace I gave her for our anniversary flashed in my mind. It was supposed to symbolize our love, our commitment. I could still picture her wearing it, laughing, and now it felt like a curse. As I lay in bed that night, the weight of my thoughts pressed down on me. I knew I had a decision to make, and I needed to figure out how to confront this mess head-on. I couldn't let this go without addressing the pain she had caused. Whether it was about fixing our marriage or walking away, I was tired of feeling like a fool. But then came the question, how far was I willing to go for revenge against the woman I once loved? I didn't know yet, but I felt a fire igniting within me. Little did she know, I had a plan brewing in the back of my mind. I was no longer the unsuspecting husband. I was ready to take control of my life and confront the betrayal head-on. The days that followed were a blur. I felt stuck in a loop of anger and sadness, but I knew I had to keep my cool. Sarah went about her routine as if nothing had happened, and that infuriated me more. She'd come home with a smile and ask about my day, and I'd respond with short, clipped answers. It was like living with a stranger who wore the mask of my wife. I spent a lot of time stewing in my thoughts. I couldn't shake off the image of her with Mark, laughing and flirting, presumably while wearing the necklace I'd given her. My mind raced. With various scenarios, how long had this been going on? Was she meeting him after work? Did she think I was too blind to notice? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I needed to gather more evidence before confronting her again. One night, as soon as she left for her girls' night out, I took it upon myself to dig deeper. I went through her things, which I know sounds desperate, but I needed to know the extent of her betrayal. I found her laptop, and with a pounding heart I flipped it open. It took a few tries to guess her password, but I had a hunch it was something related to us, and I was right. I felt a mix of excitement and dread as I logged in. What I found made my blood run cold. Emails exchanged between Sarah and Mark confirmed my worst suspicions. They weren't just coworkers, they were having an affair. Plans for secret meetings, intimate conversations, and everything in between was laid out before me like a gut punch. I felt sick to my stomach, realizing I'd been living a lie. The worst part was seeing her words, the way she spoke about me in comparison to him. I was the nice guy, but Mark was exciting and adventurous. That description stung. It was all too much. I slammed the laptop shut, taking a moment to breathe. I felt like I was drowning in my emotions. Anger boiled within me, but there was also a sense of clarity. I couldn't confront her without being armed with the truth. I needed evidence to back up my claims. I took screenshots of everything, printing some of the emails just in case. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life and dignity. When Sarah came home that night, she was in high spirits, clearly having had a good time. I stayed quiet, observing her, and I couldn't help but notice how carefree she was. It was like she didn't have a care in the world, while I felt like I was carrying the weight of 1,000 bricks on my shoulders. I waited until she settled down, then decided to engage her in conversation. "How was your night?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, it was fun. Just some drinks and dancing with the girls," she chirped, as if that was all it was. The irony made me want to laugh bitterly. "Sounds great," I replied, trying hard not to reveal my inner turmoil. "Did you get to talk to Mark?" Her expression changed instantly, a flicker of panic crossing her face before she composed herself. "What? No, Jake. I told you it was just the girls. Why are you always so suspicious?" I wanted to scream at her, to tell her that I knew everything, but I held back. I needed to approach this delicately. I didn't want to blow my cover before I had all my ducks in a row. I kept my composure as we chatted, but the tension in the room was palpable. Every laugh felt like a slap in the face, and every innocent comment about her night cut deeper. As the week progressed, I kept gathering intel. I even pulled records of her phone calls when I noticed she was getting a little careless with her phone. I watched her go out with friends, my heart racing every time she kissed me goodbye at the door. Each time she walked away, I felt a mix of anger and determination. I was going to confront her, but I needed to build a stronger case. Finally, the day came when I had collected enough. I had my screenshots, my printed emails, and even recorded conversations from my phone where I'd overheard her talking about Mark when she thought I wasn't listening. I felt like a detective uncovering a dark secret, and I was ready to confront her once and for all. That evening, I set the stage. I waited until she returned from work, the sun setting behind her, casting long shadows through the door. I was standing in the living room, the laptop open on the coffee table, my heart pounding in my chest. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked at me, a flash of confusion crossing her face. "About what?" "About you and Mark," I said, my voice firm but calm. Her eyes widened, and I could see her instantly on edge. "I know everything." Her reaction was immediate. She folded her arms defensively, a half-hearted smile plastered on her face. "What are you talking about? Jake, you're being ridiculous. Again, you're just looking for a fight." But I wasn't going to let her brush me off this time. I pulled out the printed emails and laid them on the coffee table, my heart racing as I prepared to unveil the truth. "These don't lie, Sarah. I've seen everything. How could you do this to me?" The look on her face morphed from feigned ignorance to sheer panic. She opened her mouth to protest, but nothing came out. I could see the gears turning in her mind, trying to come up with excuses, lies, anything to deflect responsibility. But I wasn't going to let her play that game anymore. Tell me the truth, I demanded, feeling the weight of my betrayal and the pain it caused surging through me. I deserve to know what's been going on between you two. The tension in the room thickened as she struggled to find her words. I could feel my heart racing, adrenaline pumping, knowing this was the moment that would change everything. I was ready for her to either come clean or try to spin her lies once again. Either way, I was determined to see this through. The room was charged with tension as I laid the evidence of Sarah's infidelity before her. I could see her mind racing, calculating her words, desperately trying to figure out how to twist her way out of this. For a moment she seemed frozen, caught off guard by the abrupt confrontation. I watched her face, hoping for a flicker of remorse, a hint of guilt, but all I saw was fear. Jake, she started, her voice trembling. I could tell she was weighing her options. Was she going to deny everything outright, or would she admit to at least some of the truth? In that moment I felt a rush of anger. How could she not own up to what she had done? Don't even try to lie to me, I interrupted, my voice low but firm. I have everything right here. You think I'm just going to stand here and let you talk your way out of this? I gestured to the printed emails and screenshots on the table, my heart pounding in my chest. The color drained from her face as she glanced at the papers. Those don't mean anything, Jake. You're taking things out of context. Mark is just a friend, I swear. A friend, I shot back, incredulous. You call him a friend when you're talking about secret meetings and planning weekends away. That's not friendship, Sarah, that's an affair. She opened her mouth to argue, but her voice faltered. I could see her struggling, the facade of confidence crumbling. It's not what you think, she finally said, her tone softer but still defensive. I wasn't thinking straight. Things have been complicated between us. Complicated? I shook my head, incredulous. How could she downplay this? You made a choice, Sarah. You chose to betray me. How long has this been going on? Just a few months, she whispered, her shoulders slumping slightly. A wave of devastation washed over me. Months. My mind reeled, trying to process the implications. She had been lying to me for months while I was blissfully unaware, pouring my love and trust into a relationship that had been a lie. I can't believe you, I said, my voice steady but filled with disappointment. I've given you everything. I stood by you through tough times, and this is how you repay me. I didn't mean for it to happen, she pleaded, tears welling up in her eyes. I just got caught up in the excitement. Mark was just, he made me feel alive again. You know how things have been between us. We've grown distant, and don't you dare put this on me. I interrupted, feeling the anger bubbling to the surface. You chose to cheat. You didn't even try to talk to me about what was wrong. Instead, you ran into someone else's arms. Her sobs shattered my anger for a moment, and I felt a pang of sympathy. But I quickly reminded myself that she had made this mess, not me. I took a deep breath, trying to regain my composure. Do you even realize how much this hurts me? You've shattered my trust. I know, Jake, I'm so sorry, she cried, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. It was a mistake. We can work through this, I promise. Work through this. The notion felt absurd. How could I ever trust her again? You have no idea how deep this betrayal goes, I said, shaking my head. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. She continued to plead, her arguments growing increasingly desperate. I love you, Jake, I do. I was just confused. Mark means nothing to me. It was a fling, just a distraction. I want our life back. Please give me another chance. I felt my heart clench at her words, but I wasn't ready to forgive her that easily. You think you can just say, I love you, and everything will go back to normal. It doesn't work that way, Sarah. Trust is broken, and once it's gone, it's hard to get back. I could see her processing my words, the reality of the situation slowly dawning on her. I felt a twisted sense of power in this moment, but it was also painful to watch someone I loved in such distress. But I reminded myself that this was her doing. She had put us in this position, and I wasn't about to let her manipulate me into forgiving her too quickly. Jake, please, she whispered, her voice breaking. I'll do anything. I'll cut ties with Mark. I'll prove to you that I can. Be better, just don't leave me. I took a moment to gather my thoughts, feeling a whirlwind of emotions battling inside me. I knew I needed to make a decision, but the weight of the betrayal felt heavy on my heart. I wanted to scream, to cry, but instead I gathered myself and took a step back. I don't know what to say right now. I need time to think, I replied, my voice strained. But know this, I won't be a fool. You can't just expect me to forgive and forget just like that. Trust takes time to rebuild, and I don't know if I even want to try. The sobs racked her body, but I remained unmoved. I stood at the edge of the emotional chasm that had opened between us, and I felt a sense of finality in my decision. I would not tolerate being treated like this. I had to take control of my life and protect my heart, no matter how painful the process was. I'm going to stay with my brother for a few days, I said, finally breaking the silence. I need space to figure things out, Jake. Please don't go, she cried, reaching for me, but I stepped back, creating distance between us. It was time for me to reclaim my dignity, to take back the power that had been stripped from me. I could feel the weight of betrayal clinging to me, but I also felt the stirrings of resolve beginning to take shape. As I walked out the door, I felt a mix of emotions churning within me, anger, sadness, but also a spark of determination. I was done being the victim in this story. I was ready to take charge of my life and make choices that were right for me. Whatever Sarah had done was her choice, but how I moved forward would be entirely up to me. I would find a way to heal, to rebuild, and to reclaim my strength. I just had to figure out how to do that without losing myself in the process. Staying with my brother was a necessary step, but it also felt like a retreat. I arrived at his apartment, dropping my bags by the door, and instantly felt the weight of my emotions pressing down on me. My brother, Alex, greeted me with a raised eyebrow and a concerned look on his face. What happened, man? I took a deep breath, deciding to keep it simple for now. Sarah cheated on me. I found out about her affair with a guy from work. Alex's expression shifted from curiosity to anger. What? Seriously? I can't believe she would do that to you. He invited me to sit on the couch, and I found some solace in being around family, even if I felt like I was about to unravel. I don't want to believe it either, I admitted, raking my fingers through my hair. But I have proof, I just don't know what to do next. What do you mean, proof? He asked, leaning in closer as if the gravity of my situation warranted his full attention. I recounted the events of the past week, the late nights, the texts, the emails, and the confrontation. Alex listened intently, shaking his head in disbelief. Dude, that's brutal. You don't deserve that. Have you talked to her since you left? Yeah, I confronted her, and she's begging for another chance. But I don't know if I can ever trust her again. It's too much right now. Alex sighed, and I could see him weighing his words. You have to do what's best for you. Cheating isn't just a mistake, it's a choice she made repeatedly. You're not a backup plan. You deserve someone who's all in. His words resonated with me. I had to stop thinking about what Sarah wanted and start focusing on what I needed. I spent the next few days trying to clear my head. I went for long runs, grabbed drinks with Alex, and tried to distract myself from the storm of emotions swirling inside. But no matter what I did, thoughts of Sarah crept in, nagging at me like a persistent itch I couldn't scratch. One evening, I found myself sitting on the balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink. I pulled out my phone, staring at Sarah's texts that I had saved in my notes. The words felt heavy, loaded with betrayal, and I knew I had to make a decision soon. I thought about the necklace I had given her, the one she had worn while betraying me. It felt like a symbol of everything that had gone wrong in our relationship. Eventually, I made up my mind. I needed to confront her one last time. I was going to take back that necklace, the very emblem of our love, and make a statement. I wanted her to know that she had lost everything, me, my trust, and the love that once flourished between us. I returned home, feeling like a man on a mission, ready to claim what was rightfully mine. Sarah was on the couch when I walked in, her eyes wide with surprise. Jake, you came back, she exclaimed, springing to her feet. I could see the remnants of hope flickering in her eyes, but I wasn't here to rekindle anything. Yeah, we need to talk, I said, my voice firm. She looked apprehensive as she gestured for me to sit down. I know I messed up, but please listen to me. I want to explain. Explain, I interrupted, keeping my voice steady. You've already explained everything I need to know. You chose to cheat on me with Mark. You made that choice deliberately and you need to own it. Her expression shifted and she looked defensive again. Jake, I've told you I was confused. I didn't mean to hurt you. I love you. Love, is that what you call it? Because love doesn't break trust. Love doesn't betray. You took that necklace I gave you and wore it while you were with him. I paused, taking a deep breath to steady myself. I want it back. Her face fell, the weight of my words crashing down like a wave. Jake, please don't. I thought we could work through this. No, I said firmly. You had your chance. You chose the excitement of an affair over our marriage. You've lost the right to it all. I reached for her, carefully unclasping the necklace she wore around her neck. It felt symbolic, a transfer of power from her hands back to mine. You don't deserve this or me. For a moment she looked stunned, her mouth opening and closing as if searching for words. I could see the anger, regret, and desperation flash across her face, but I didn't care. I had made my choice. Taking the necklace felt like reclaiming a part of myself that had been lost. As I stood there holding that piece of jewelry that once symbolized our love, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I was no longer the victim in this situation. I was taking control and it felt empowering. I think it's best if you find somewhere else to stay, I told her, my voice steady. I need time to heal from this and I can't do that with you in the house. You can't be serious, she pleaded, her voice cracking. I thought we could fix this together. Fixing things takes trust, Sarah. You broke that trust the moment you chose to betray me. Now I need to take care of myself. This isn't just about you anymore. I walked toward the door, my heart pounding. I felt liberated, but I also felt the sting of loss. I had to stay strong. I was doing this for me, for my dignity, and to reclaim control over my life. As I stepped outside, I turned back one last time to see her standing there, the realization of her own choices settling in. In that moment, I knew I had made the right decision. My heart was heavy, but I felt a flicker of hope for the future. I could rebuild, and I would come out stronger on the other side. This was not the end of my story. It was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where I would prioritize my well-being and happiness. The days following our tense confrontation were a whirlwind of emotions. I was living out of my brother's apartment, trying to find a semblance of normalcy. I threw myself into work, focusing on projects to distract myself from the chaos of my personal life. Each day felt like a battle, but I was determined to keep moving forward. The sting of betrayal was still fresh, but the act of reclaiming my necklace had marked a turning point for me. As much as I wanted to forget about Sarah, I couldn't completely escape the memories. I would occasionally scroll through my phone, looking at photos of our happier times, and it hurt more than I cared to admit. The love I had for her was tangled up in the pain of what she had done, and it felt like a constant tug-of-war within my heart. I sought comfort in my friends and family, leaning on them for support. Alex was a constant source of encouragement, reminding me that I was better off without her. You deserve someone who will value you, Jake. Don't forget that, he'd say, and I'd nod, even if deep down I still felt the echoes of doubt. One evening I went out with a few friends from work. We grabbed drinks at a bar downtown, eager to distract ourselves from the weight of adult life. As I laughed and joked with them, I felt a moment of relief. It was nice to be reminded that life could still be fun. I even caught the eye of a woman across the bar, her smile warm and inviting. She had a spark that made me feel alive, but every time I thought about reaching out, my heart would hesitate. Just go for it, man. One of my coworkers nudged me, noticing my lingering gaze. What do you have to lose? But I wasn't ready. The scars from my relationship with Sarah ran deep, and the thought of jumping into something new felt overwhelming. Instead, I chose to focus on healing, giving myself the space to process everything that had happened. As the weeks rolled on, I continued to adjust to life without Sarah. I moved back into our house, but it felt surreal and empty. I'd look around and see remnants of our life together, the wedding photos, the furniture we'd picked out, the little memories we'd shared. It was all a bittersweet reminder of what I had lost. But I also knew that keeping those memories would serve as a reminder of why I had made the decision to move on. Eventually, I began to think more about the future. I sought therapy to help process my feelings. I realized I had a lot of anger and hurt that I needed to unpack, and talking to someone helped. In our sessions, I learned to set boundaries and prioritize my own needs. I learned that it was okay to feel angry but also to forgive myself for feeling that way. One day, I was sitting in my therapist's office, sharing my thoughts on the affair. "I can't shake the feeling of being betrayed," I said, my voice wavering. "It's like a part of me has died, and I don't know if I can ever trust anyone again." My therapist nodded, acknowledging my pain. "Trust is a fragile thing, Jake. It takes time to rebuild, not just with others but also within yourself. Healing is a process, and it's perfectly okay to feel the way you do." Her words resonated with me, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. I realized that while I couldn't change what had happened, I could control how I moved forward. I began to shift my focus from what I had lost to what I could gain. A few months later, I found myself at a local coffee shop, going through my usual routine. I had started to make new friends, rekindled old hobbies, and even began to entertain the idea of dating again. I was sipping my coffee when I noticed a familiar face walk through the door. It was the woman from the bar, her warm smile lighting up the room as she approached the counter. "Hey, fancy seeing you here," she said, her eyes sparkling with recognition. "Yeah, small world," I replied, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. We exchanged small talk, and before I knew it, we were deep in conversation, laughing and sharing stories. Her name was Emily, and there was an ease about her that felt refreshing. We talked about our favorite books, our goals, and our love for travel. It felt good to connect with someone new, and as we exchanged numbers, I felt a sense of possibility that I hadn't felt in a long time. As I left the coffee shop that day, I couldn't help but smile. I still had moments where the pain of my past crept back in, but I was learning to navigate those feelings. I was starting to see that life could offer new beginnings, even after devastating endings. Eventually, I decided to confront Sarah one last time. I needed to close that chapter fully, so I invited her to meet me at a park. As we sat on a bench, the atmosphere was tense. I could see the guilt etched on her face, but I was no longer the broken man she had left behind. "Jake, I want to apologize again for everything," she said, her voice tinged with regret. "I've realized how much I hurt you, and I'm truly sorry." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of those words. "Sarah, I appreciate the apology, but it's not enough to change what happened. I've learned a lot about myself since we ended things. I've realized I deserve to be with someone who values me and respects our relationship." She nodded, looking down at her hands. "I understand. I never meant for it to end this way." "Neither did I replied. "But it's done now. I've moved on, and I hope you find happiness too. I just want the best for both of us." We talked a bit longer, but the conversation felt different now. There was no anger, no bitterness, just a mutual understanding that we had both changed. We had our time, but it was time to let go. Afterward, I felt lighter. I had released the last remnants of that chapter, and it felt liberating. I left the park knowing that I had grown, that I had taken control of my life, and that I wasn't going to be defined by someone else's choices. As I continued to embark on this journey of self-discovery and healing, I felt more at peace with myself. I knew that. I still had a way to go, but I was determined to embrace whatever came next. Life was full of possibilities, and I was finally ready to welcome them with open arms. Months went by, and each day felt like a fresh start. My connection with Emily deepened, and I found myself smiling more often than I had in years. She was kind, genuine, and seemed to understand my journey. We took things slow, and I appreciated every moment we spent together, sharing pieces of our lives as we explored new restaurants, attended local events, and even tried hiking. With her, I felt more like my true self, without the weight of betrayal holding me back. One evening, while we were sitting on the patio of a cozy restaurant, Emily looked at me with a warmth that made my heart swell. "I'm really glad we met, Jake. You have such a good heart," she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "I feel the same way," I replied, the sincerity in my voice surprising even me. "It's nice to be with someone who feels like a partner, not just a placeholder." We laughed, and I realized just how far I had come. I had spent so long in the shadows of my past that the brightness of the present was almost blinding. The memories of Sarah were still there, but they no longer held the same power over me. I had learned to accept the pain, the anger, and the betrayal, and I had transformed it into something positive. As spring rolled around, I found myself taking a trip to the mountains with Emily. We hiked to a stunning viewpoint, and as we reached the top, the view took my breath away. The world stretched out before us, a tapestry of greens and blues, and I felt a sense of freedom wash over me. It was in that moment, surrounded by nature and the woman who had quickly become important to me, that I realized just how much I had grown. "Jake, look!" Emily exclaimed, pulling my attention to the horizon where the sun was beginning to set, casting golden rays that danced across the sky. "Isn't it beautiful?" "It really is," I said, feeling a swell of gratitude in my chest. "And it's a reminder of how far I've come." I never thought I'd be able to enjoy these moments again after everything that happened. Emily turned to me, her expression serious yet soft. "It's okay to have a past, you know. It shapes who we are, but it doesn't have to define us." Her words struck a chord within me. She was right. My past with Sarah had been painful, but it had also taught me valuable lessons about love, trust, and the importance of valuing oneself. I had learned that I was worthy of respect, love, and happiness. And I had emerged from the ashes stronger than before. As we stood together, I took a moment to reflect on my journey. I had faced heartache and betrayal, but I had also found strength and resilience. I realized that I was not just moving on. I was moving forward, and it felt empowering. When we returned to the city, I knew I wanted to take the next step with Emily. I felt ready to open my heart again, to embrace vulnerability in a way that I hadn't thought possible after my experience with Sarah. I wanted to build a future that was rooted in honesty and mutual respect. One evening, I invited her over for dinner and set the table with candles, creating a warm ambience. As we sat down to eat, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. I knew I wanted to tell her how I felt, to let her know that I was ready to fully commit to our relationship. "Emily," I began, my heart racing. "I know we've been taking things slow, but I've realized something important. You've shown me what it means to love and be loved without conditions. I want to explore our relationship more deeply. I want to be with you." Her eyes sparkled with surprise and joy. "Really? I feel the same way, Jake. I've been hoping you'd say that." A wave of relief washed over me, and we embraced, sharing a moment that felt like a new beginning. In that hug, I could feel the warmth of connection, the promise of what was to come. As our relationship blossomed, I made a point to revisit my healing journey regularly. I stayed in touch with my therapist, ensuring that I continued to work on myself and address any lingering feelings related to my past with Sarah. It was important to me that I didn't carry emotional baggage into my new relationship. I also found closure with Sarah in my own way. I wrote her a letter, expressing my feelings and acknowledging the lessons I had learned from our time together. I didn't expect a response, but I felt it was necessary for my own peace of mind. In the letter, I told her that I wished her well and hoped she would find the happiness she sought. Eventually, I received a response, a simple note that thanked me for my honesty. I took it as a sign of growth on both our parts. It was a liberating moment for me, knowing that I could move on without resentment. As summer approached, I found myself in a much happier place, surrounded by friends, new adventures, and the promise of exciting possibilities. I was excited about my future and grateful for the journey that had led me here. I had transformed my pain into strength and resilience, and I was finally ready to embrace life fully once again. Looking back, I understood that while heartbreak is painful, it can also serve as a catalyst for growth. I learned that I am capable of love, trust, and happiness, and I deserve those things. It's all part of the journey of life, and I was ready to keep moving forward, hand in hand with Emily, toward whatever adventures awaited us. The past would always be a part of me, but it no longer held me captive. I was finally free.